Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going on a totally different kind of journey. Instead of charts or hard data, we are going to explore something much more profound: the sheer gravity of a lit window, and exactly what it does to the human heart when it's completely consumed by romantic longing. Have you ever stood outside on the street staring up at a building, just desperately hoping to catch a glimpse of someone you care about? Well, this piece of writing captures that exact frozen moment in time perfectly. We're going to break down this brief but incredibly dense story and really explore the physical and emotional space our narrator is trapped in. It's just a beautifully layered text all about love, obsession, and that sudden, harsh return to reality. I look at his lit window, and my eyes cling to its edge. I want you to just sit with that opening thought for a second. The word cling, it's such a physical, desperate verb, right? She isn't just casually glancing up as she walks by. No, her vision is completely anchored to the architecture of his life. That lit window is a beacon in the dark, and it exerts a literal gravitational pull on her. By telling us her eyes cling to the edge, the author immediately establishes this mood that is honestly almost hypnotic. We know right off the bat that our protagonist is entirely captivated, completely rooted to the spot, and entirely at the mercy of whatever happens in that square of light. So let's dive into the tension that immediately follows. The protagonist is standing out there, squinting into the light, trying so hard to decode the shapes moving in the room above. She is caught right between desperate hope and mundane reality. Like, is that his approaching silhouette walking toward the glass? Or is it just the blades of a spinning ceiling fan? She's analyzing every single flicker of shadow. It's a trick of the light, a play of shadows where her heart is desperately trying to overwrite reality. She's actively trying to manifest him out of thin air, hoping against hope that the mundane movement of a fan is actually the person she loves. But what's truly fascinating here is exactly what she hopes to see when he finally appears. She isn't picturing him all dressed up for a night out, and she isn't imagining some posed, perfect version of him. She wants to see a radiant, bright face, sure, but paired with messy morning hair and eyes that haven't even fully opened yet. She's yearning for this incredibly specific, unguarded moment of sleepiness. She wants to see him before he's put his defenses up for the day, before the world even has a chance to interact with him. And man, that speaks volumes. It shows this deep, aching desire for true, raw intimacy. She wants to be the absolute first thing he encounters when he wakes up. Now let's watch how this builds, because right at this point in the text, the narrative fundamentally shifts. We're stepping away from the physical act of staring up from the sidewalk, and we're diving headfirst into the rich, obsessive internal world of the protagonist's daydream. She's no longer just observing, she's beginning to construct an entire reality in her mind. The lit window has stopped being just a piece of glass, and it's become a blank canvas for the lover's imagination to paint upon. And here is where the physical toll of her waiting becomes so beautifully apparent. The harsh reality of the elements is setting in. The sun is actually rising, and it is literally burning her eyes. But why doesn't she look away? Why doesn't she even blink? Well, because her focus is completely anchored to the wood of the window frame, the exact spot gently touched by his hands when he stands there. She is perfectly willing to endure physical pain, literally the burning of the sun in her eyes, just to feel a proxy connection to him. She's finding intimacy not even in him, but in the inanimate objects that hold the memory of his touch. It's a stunning display of devotion, definitely mixed with a slight edge of obsession. So, as she stares at that wood, she begins to script a whole scene in her mind. First, she imagines the long conversations he must have while contemplating the vast sky. Next, she pictures herself standing below, quietly contemplating him. It's this beautiful, quiet mirroring. But then, a crucial shift happens. She actually corrects herself in real time. The text says, "or I imagine his presence," to be more exact. She catches herself slipping too deeply into the fantasy. She realizes she's meticulously crafting a layered reality that she isn't even a physical part of. And this realization that she's separate from him, that she is just a spectator on the street, it pushes her imagination into entirely uncharted territory. The daydream doesn't stop, though. It evolves. We are now entering the most surreal, poetic, and profound phase of this text. We're moving from observing the architecture to actually wanting to become it. If only I were this beautiful balcony. I mean, the sheer magnitude of this wish is incredible. She feels so distant from him in her human form, standing all the way down on the street, that she actually desires to shed her humanity altogether. She wants to transform into the very architecture of his home. And why? Because a balcony never has to leave. A balcony is a permanent, unquestioned part of his daily life. By becoming the balcony, she guarantees her proximity to him forever, completely eliminating the distance between the street and the lit window.
And what exactly would she do if she were this balcony? Well, she wants to absorb his voice, his conversations, his thoughts. That's the beautifully romantic part, right? But it doesn't stop there. She also wants to absorb his boredom, his problems. And this brilliantly illustrates the true depth of her love. She isn't just looking to consume the highlight reel of his life, the poetic moments of him staring at the sky. She longs to bear the weight of his mundane, tedious moments too. She wants to be the structure that literally supports him when he's utterly bored and when he's weighed down by heavy problems. She wants the absolute totality of his existence, the good and the heavy.
Which brings us to the absolute hypnotic peak of her romantic trance. As the balcony, she wishes to embrace him inside me at all times and breeze upon his heart with a breath of air that comforts his soul. It is such a quiet, intensely warm sentiment. She wants to be the very air that surrounds him. This is a state of total surrender. She's completely lost herself in this beautiful, comforting daydream where she is the ultimate source of his peace. She is just floating in this perfect, suspended reality.
But you can't float forever. Suddenly, abruptly, violently, the trance is broken. The poetic daydream we've just spent all this time building is instantly shattered. We are ripped right out of that soft, romantic inner world and thrown mercilessly back onto the hard concrete of the real world.
The terrifying, ugly, chaotic sound of car horns blaring in the street just shatters the silence. Notice how sensory this is. We went from the gentle, invisible breath of air that comforts his soul straight to the jarring, mechanical scream of traffic. It's an auditory intrusion that instantly demolishes the delicate world she just built. Both she and we, as the audience, suffer this immediate emotional whiplash, forced to snap back to the harsh, unforgiving present. And as those car horns wake her up, we're hit with the most shocking reveal of the entire text. Think about the passage of time here for a second. From the first minute her eyes clung to the window, to minute 15 when the sun began burning her eyes as she dreamt to be in a balcony, all the way to minute 30 when she is finally startled awake. 30 minutes! She suddenly realizes that almost half an hour has passed. All of this, the squinting at shadows, the burning sun, the profound architectural daydream, it all happened while she was standing completely, entirely frozen on a public street for 30 straight minutes. Time had completely suspended itself while she was trapped in the gravity of his window.
She says, "I realized that in reality I had forgotten where I was going, and it doesn't matter anymore." The absolute gravity of her longing completely erased her sense of direction, her schedule, and, momentarily, her very sense of self. And that is the true power of this text. It shows us how a single lit window can derail a life, even if just for 30 minutes, pulling us into this beautiful, painful orbit that makes the rest of the world simply disappear. Which leaves us with one final lingering question. Where was she going before time stood still?